ExamPrep.School. Vermont Motor Vehicle. Damage Appraiser Insurance Exam, exam code SERIES 14-37. There are 5 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Appraising auto physical damage claims. Insurance basics. Vermont insurance practices. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Under 8V, SA Section 4726, which of the following powers is granted to the Vermont Insurance Commissioner? A. Suspend policy cancellations for non-payment without legislative approval. B. Issue subpoenas requiring production of insurer records and witness testimony. C. Unilaterally alter statutory reserve requirements for life insurers. D. Override judicial orders in insurance-related litigation. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. This option is correct because 8 VSA Section 4726 explicitly authorizes the Commissioner to issue subpoenas, compelling insurers and witnesses to produce documents and testimony during examinations and hearings. Reason A is not correct. The statute does not permit suspension of policy cancellations without separate legislative action. Reason C is not correct. Altering reserve requirements falls under other regulatory statutes, not Section 4726. Reason D is not correct. The Commissioner has no authority to override judicial decisions. That remains within the court's jurisdiction. Question 2. After receiving a tip about questionable underwriting practices, the Vermont Insurance Commissioner initiates an examination of an insurer. Under the Commissioner's examination powers of insurers, which of the following actions is permissible? A. Require policyholder consent before reviewing claims files. B. Mandate new premium rates for covered vehicles. C. Inspect underwriting guidelines and financial statements. D. Order the insurer to transfer surplus funds to consumers. The correct answer is C. The Commissioner has statutory authority to examine an insurer's books, records, and documents, including underwriting guidelines and financial statements. The other listed actions exceed examination powers and involve regulatory or judicial functions not granted under examination statutes. Reason A is not correct. Examination powers allow access to records without policyholder consent under Vermont law. Reason B is not correct. Mandating premium rates falls under rate regulation, requiring a formal filing and hearing, not examination authority. Reason D is not correct. Ordering fund transfers is a remedial or judicial action, not part of examination authority. Question 3. What is the minimum age requirement to obtain a Vermont Motor Vehicle Damage Appraiser license? A. 18 years old. B. 21 years old. C. 20 years old. D. 17 years old. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is 18 years old because Vermont statute requires applicants for a damage appraiser license to be at least 18 years of age before issuance. Reason B is not correct. Being 21 is older than the statutory minimum. Vermont law sets the threshold lower. Reason C is not correct. 20 is above the required age. The statute specifies a younger minimum age. Reason D is not correct. 17 is below the statutory minimum. Applicants must be older. Question 4. After submitting her online application for a Vermont Motor Vehicle Damage Appraiser license, Janelle realizes she has not yet provided fingerprints. According to Vermont requirements, what must she do to complete the fingerprint and background check submission process? A. Wait to receive a fingerprint kit from the Department of Insurance before submitting prints. B. Arrange for electronic live scan fingerprints at any DPS-approved location. C. Mail 2 rolled fingerprint cards to the Vermont Crime Information Center within 30 days of her application. D. Submit a notarized affidavit attesting to no criminal history in lieu of fingerprints. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that candidates must submit 2 rolled fingerprint cards to the Vermont Crime Information Center within 30 days of applying, as required by state law for a background check. Reason A is not correct. The Department of Insurance does not send fingerprint kits. Applicants are responsible for obtaining and submitting the cards themselves. Reason B is not correct. Electronic live scan is not accepted in Vermont for this license. Only inked rolled cards sent to the Crime Information Center meet the requirement. Reason D is not correct. A notarized affidavit cannot replace the required fingerprint cards. Physical prints are mandatory for the background check. Question 5. According to Vermont Regulation 79.2 Section 5, after receiving a first-party auto physical damage claim, an insurer must acknowledge receipt in writing within how many calendar days? A. 10 calendar days. B. 15 calendar days. C. 20 calendar days. D. 30 calendar days. The correct answer is B. This option is correct because Vermont Regulation 79.2 Section 5 requires insurers to send a written acknowledgement of a first-party auto physical damage claim within 15 calendar days of receipt. Reason A is not correct. This is incorrect because the regulation specifies a longer time frame, not 10 days. Reason C is not correct. This choice overstates the insurer's required acknowledgement period, which is shorter. Reason D is not correct. This duration exceeds the maximum period allowed for acknowledgement under the regulation. Question 6. Under Vermont Regulation 79.2 Section 5, once a covered auto physical damage claim has been settled, an insurer must issue the first payment within how many calendar days of settlement? A. 30 calendar days. B. 20 calendar days. C. 10 calendar days. D. 45 calendar days. The correct answer is A. This option is correct because Vermont Regulation 79.2 Section 5 mandates that, following settlement of a covered auto physical damage claim, the insurer must issue the first payment within 30 calendar days of the settlement date. Reason B is not correct. This option is shorter than the mandated 30-day requirement. Reason C is not correct. This understates the allowable period for payment issuance under the regulation. Reason D is not correct. This exceeds the maximum time frame permitted for issuing the first payment. Question 7. Under Vermont statutes, Title 8, Section 3543, an insurable interest in a motor vehicle for physical damage coverage is required to exist at which time? A. At the moment of the covered loss. B. Upon submission of the insurance application. C. When the insurer issues the policy. D. On each scheduled policy renewal date. The correct answer is A. Vermont law specifies that insurable interest in property insurance must exist at the time a loss occurs. Earlier or later, interests are insufficient. Reason B is not correct. Requiring interest only at application is incorrect because the statute mandates interest at loss. Reason C is not correct. Insurable interest at policy issuance is not sufficient under the statute, which focuses on the loss event. Reason D is not correct. Interest at renewal dates is irrelevant. The timing requirement centers on the covered loss. Question 8. A Vermont merchant purchases property insurance on a retail building. 2 weeks later, prior to notifying the insurer, the merchant sells the building to a third party. Shortly after, a fire occurs. Under Vermont law, at which points must the insured have had an insurable interest to recover under the policy? A. Only at the time the policy was written. B. Only at the time the fire loss occurred. C. Only upon renewal of the policy. D. At both the policy inception and at the time of loss. The correct answer is D. Vermont law requires an insurable interest at the outset of the policy and at the moment of loss to ensure the insured has a genuine economic stake and to prevent wagering. Since the insured transferred ownership before loss, the interest must nonetheless have existed at both inception and loss to trigger coverage. Reason A is not correct. This option only addresses inception, but interest must also be present at the time of loss. Reason B is not correct. This covers only the loss event. A valid interest must also exist when the policy was issued. Reason C is not correct. Renewal status is irrelevant. The requirement applies specifically at inception and at loss. Question 9. Under the other than collision, comprehensive portion of a standard personal auto policy, which of the following perils would not be covered? A. Theft of the insured vehicle. B. Vandalism to the vehicle. C. Damage from falling objects. D. Mechanical failure of the brake system. The correct answer is D. The mechanical failure of the brake system is considered a mechanical breakdown peril and is excluded from other than collision coverage, whereas the other listed perils are covered under comprehensive other than collision coverage. Reason A is not correct. Theft is a covered peril under other than collision coverage, so it is not excluded. Reason B is not correct. Vandalism is included under comprehensive coverage and therefore is covered. Reason C is not correct. Damage from falling objects is a standard comprehensive peril and is covered. Question 10. An insured parks an unlocked vehicle in a shopping center lot. Later, without any signs of forced entry, a portable GPS unit mounted on the dashboard is discovered missing. Under a typical personal auto policy's theft of unlocked vehicle exclusion, how should the insurer handle this claim? A. Provide full replacement costs because theft of removable items is always covered under the policy. B. Provide actual cash value payment since contents are covered for theft regardless of entry method. C. Deny the claim because theft occurred from an unlocked vehicle without forced entry. D. Deny the claim because personal property left in plain view is excluded under the policy. The correct answer is C. The theft of unlocked vehicle exclusion applies when a loss from an unlocked vehicle occurs without forced entry, so the insurer must deny this theft claim. Reason A is not correct. The exclusion applies to removable items taken from an unlocked vehicle, so full replacement cost is not payable. Reason B is not correct. Contents coverage still requires evidence of forced entry if the theft of unlocked vehicle exclusion is present, so an ACV payment is not appropriate. Reason D is not correct. The plain view exclusion does not apply here. The loss is barred by the unlocked vehicle exclusion. Question 11. When calculating actual cash value for an automobile physical damage claim, which formula correctly reflects the insurer's typical method? A. Actual cash value equals replacement cost value. Depreciation. B. Actual cash value equals replacement cost value. Depreciation, deductible. C. Actual cash value equals replacement cost value. Salvage value. D. Actual cash value equals replacement cost value plus depreciation. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is replacement cost value minus depreciation, which defines actual cash value in most physical damage settlements. Reason B is not correct. Subtracting the deductible is incorrect because deductibles apply after ACV is determined, not in the ACV formula itself. Reason C is not correct. Subtracting salvage value is wrong since salvage is handled separately and not part of the depreciation calculation. Reason D is not correct. Adding depreciation is incorrect because depreciation represents loss in value, which must be subtracted, not added. Question 12. Under a standard auto insurance policy, how can an insured obtain replacement cost coverage for new parts when repairing damage? A. By purchasing a replacement cost endorsement that waives depreciation on new parts. B. Standard policies typically reimburse aftermarket parts at actual cash value, not replacement cost. C. Replacement cost is automatically provided for new parts if the loss occurs within the first year. D. Electing a salvage waiver eliminates depreciation charges on replacement parts. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is the replacement cost endorsement, which waives depreciation on new parts. Basic policies pay only actual cash value without that endorsement. Reason B is not correct. Aftermarket parts are reimbursed at actual cash value under standard policies and do not affect new parts coverage. Reason C is not correct. Replacement cost coverage is not automatic during any time period without the specific endorsement. Reason D is not correct. A salvage waiver pertains to the insurer's salvage rights and does not remove depreciation charges on replacements. Question 13. According to Vermont insurance regulations for motor vehicle damage appraisers, what scope of fiduciary duty must an appraiser uphold toward the insurer and the claimant? A. Advocate exclusively for the insurer's financial recovery. B. Owe impartial fiduciary loyalty to both the insurer and the claimant. C. Maintain separate duties owed first to the insurer and then to the claimant. D. Subordinate the claimant's interests to those of the insurer. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is impartial fiduciary loyalty to both parties, because Vermont regulations require appraisers to serve both insurer and claimant without favoring one over the other. Reason A is not correct. Only serving the insurer conflicts with the regulatory requirement to treat both parties impartially. Reason C is not correct. Fiduciary duty in Vermont is not a sequential obligation, but a single impartial duty to both parties. Reason D is not correct. Prioritizing insurer interests violates the impartiality standard mandated by the regulations. Question 14. Under Rule B6.105 of the Vermont Insurance Regulations, which form of remuneration may a motor vehicle damage appraiser legally receive from a repair facility without creating a conflict of interest? A. A percentage of the repair bill when recommending the shop. B. Contingent referral fees based on repair facility profit. C. Gift certificates or promotional items from the facility. D. Reimbursement for actual travel and incidental expenses. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is reimbursement for actual travel and incidental expenses because Rule B6.105 expressly permits expense reimbursement while prohibiting contingent fees and promotional incentives that could bias appraisals. Reason A is not correct. Receiving a percentage of the repair bill ties compensation to repair volume and violates conflict of interest rules. Reason B is not correct. Contingent referral fees would bias the appraiser toward higher repair costs and are prohibited. Reason C is not correct. Promotional items create improper incentives and conflict with impartial appraisal standards. Question 15. An insurer's claim adjuster contacts the appraiser to begin discussions on settlement terms for a damaged vehicle, but the appraiser has not yet inspected the vehicle in person. According to Vermont regulations governing auto physical damage appraisal, which requirement must the appraiser follow before negotiating settlement? A. Obtain written authorization from the claimant before discussing any loss reserves. B. Conduct an in-person inspection of the damaged vehicle. C. Secure on-site photographic documentation as the sole basis for negotiation. D. Provide a preliminary estimate based solely on available policy limits. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is to conduct a personal, in-person inspection before settlement negotiations. Vermont regulations require the appraiser to verify damage details firsthand to ensure accuracy in negotiations. Reason A is not correct. Requiring claimant authorization is not specified. The regulation focuses on inspection prior to negotiation. Reason C is not correct. Photographs alone are insufficient. A personal inspection is mandated for accurate assessment. Reason D is not correct. Estimating based only on policy limits without inspection fails to validate the actual loss. Question 16. During a vehicle inspection, the appraiser uncovers hidden structural damage that was not initially reported by the claimant. Under Vermont appraisal regulations, what action must the appraiser take regarding this undisclosed damage? A. Report the hidden damage only in the insurer's internal claim system without notifying the claimant. B. Advise the claimant both verbally and in writing of the newly discovered damage. C. Submit a revised estimate to the insurer without disclosing details to the claimant. D. Provide a summary of changes to the claimant after final settlement approval. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is to inform the claimant of hidden damages both verbally and in writing. Vermont requires transparency about all damage findings so claimants can make informed decisions. Reason A is not correct. Notifying only the insurer fails to meet the transparency requirement toward the claimant. Reason C is not correct. Submitting an estimate without claimant notification omits the required disclosure of damage details. Reason D is not correct. Delaying notification until after settlement does not comply with prompt disclosure rules. Question 17. After completing an in-person appraisal of a damaged vehicle, the appraiser must maintain communication with the claim adjuster. According to standard Vermont protocols, which practice best reflects the required communication protocol with the adjuster? A. Inform the adjuster verbally only if additional damage is discovered. B. Provide regular written updates on findings and any estimate revisions to the adjuster. C. Communicate directly with the claimant instead of involving the adjuster. D. Wait until the final appraisal report is complete before notifying the adjuster of results. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is to provide regular written updates to the adjuster on findings and any changes. Vermont protocols emphasize documented, ongoing communication throughout the appraisal process. Reason A is not correct. Verbal updates only are insufficient. Documentation of communication is required. Reason C is not correct. Communicating directly with the claimant bypasses the adjuster and violates protocol. Reason D is not correct. Delaying updates until final report neglects the need for interim communication. Question 18. Under Vermont motor vehicle damage appraisal regulations, what is the maximum time period after a loss within which an insured must provide written notice to the insurer before the notice may be deemed untimely? A. Within 14 days of the loss. B. Within 60 days of the loss. C. Within 30 days of the loss. D. Within 90 days of the loss. The correct answer is C. This option is correct because Vermont regulations require written notice of a covered motor vehicle loss within 30 days to satisfy the prompt notice obligation. Reason A is not correct. A 2-week period is too short and is not specified in the statute. Reason B is not correct. A 60-day window exceeds the regulatory limit and is not permitted. Reason D is not correct. A 90-day time frame is substantially longer than the regulatory requirement. Question 19. Which of the following actions best fulfills an insured's duty to protect a damaged vehicle from further loss under Vermont regulations? A. Waiting for the insurer's adjuster to arrange all repairs before securing the vehicle. B. Removing all damaged parts before the adjuster's inspection. C. Moving the vehicle without notifying the insurer to a remote location. D. Covering broken windows and securing exposed areas to prevent weather and theft damage. The correct answer is D. This option is correct because Vermont rules require the insured to take reasonable steps, such as covering openings to protect a damaged vehicle from additional harm. Reason A is not correct. Delaying any protective measures until adjuster involvement violates the duty to prevent additional loss. Reason B is not correct. Disassembling parts before inspection could exacerbate damage and is not a required protective step. Reason C is not correct. Relocating the vehicle without insurer notification may breach policy terms and does not address protection. Question 20. After a rear-end collision at a parking lot, an insured receives a proof of loss form requesting incident details, supporting invoices, and signatures. The insured is unsure how to properly complete the form to meet policy requirements. What action should the insured take? A. Submit the proof of loss form with a brief written statement, but wait to attach invoices until requested by the insurer. B. Sign and return the form, but omit supporting invoices until the insurance company specifically requests them. C. Provide only a verbal statement to the insurer's representative and submit the form when repairs are finished. D. Complete, sign, date, and promptly return the proof of loss form with all required supporting documentation. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is to fully complete and return the proof of loss form with all required documentation, as the policy obligates the insured to sign, date, and submit all attachments within specified deadlines to validate the claim. Reason A is not correct. Delaying submission of supporting invoices can lead to non-compliance with policy deadlines and potential claim denial. Reason B is not correct. Omitting invoices until requested violates the insured's obligation to provide all supporting documents at the time of submission. Reason C is not correct. Relying solely on a verbal statement without the formal signed form and attachments fails to meet proof of loss requirements. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.